you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TB. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Matt Ohayon back with you finally after 3 long weeks. Back with you on the Sick Podcast. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Step into the world-renowned poker experience at Playground, where free food and drinks at cash game tables, a bad beat jackpot, weekly promotions, daily tournaments, and unmatched customer service await you. Why play anywhere else? Just minutes away from downtown Montreal, across the Mercier Bridge, Playground. We're also brought to you by Bittt Tibi beer. Bittt Tibi has launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for those cool fall nights, almost winter, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% alcohol per can. Available in packs of 6 and 12 in grocery and dépanneurs across the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. We're also brought to you by Betway. Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct and go with Betway. Go on betway.com or scan the QR code right there to join the action. You must be 18 years or older, and please play responsibly. All right, I was on vacation for 3 weeks. You don't care about that. We know that. But I've been keeping up with the Habs. I don't know. I don't really know where they stand right now. But this guy does, because he's been following him. He hasn't taken any weeks off. He's Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, how we doing?
I'm doing really well, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I'm refreshed. You know, it's come back from vacation. You feel really, really good. You know, I was gone for 3 Fridays, but I was gone for 16 days. So not the whole 3 weeks, but it was very, very nice to get away. Very weird though. You know, it's a weird sensation because I went to Florida. And very weird sensation going to Florida in October. You know, I left on Halloween, October 31st. And my colleagues were asking me when I was working from Florida. They were like, so how's it feel to be in the sunshine? I go, you know, normally when I go to Florida, it's the middle of January, February, March, and it's freezing. And I just endured months and weeks of minus 40. And, you know, it's good to get the break. I left Montreal. It was 20 degrees outside. I didn't feel like I needed the break. But anyways, I took it. So I'm back now, and that's what counts. What about you? How is everything?
Good. Not good. I mean, the Canadiens are, so I would say, I don't cheer one way or another, but they're more fun to cover when they're winning, and they're more fun to watch when they're winning. And, you know, the game they played in Minnesota a few games ago was one of the most boring games I've ever seen in my life. I fell asleep watching on TV in the second period. But the last couple of games they played, it's remarkable how almost all of a sudden they seem to be clicking in their defensive zone, and they don't look as lost as they did. You know, 3 wins in the last 4 games. They've outscored the opponents 8-1 the last 2 games, and they're not spending a lot of time in their zone. It's not just the play in their zone; it's breaking out of their own zone. They just look much more confident, much more less unsure. Stefan Robida talked with us after practice yesterday. They gave Marty St. Louis a day off from speaking with the media, which I'm sure he really enjoyed. And we just started talking with him about defensive systems and, you know, the sort of hybrid system they use in their own end. And he was saying no matter what system you use, apart from man-on-man, there's going to be gray areas in it as far as when you switch or who you have or who your man is. And I was speaking with Chris Nilan, and he was talking about how Jacques Lemaire didn't like man-on-man defense because he said it's selfish hockey. Well, I got my man. If somebody else scores, that wasn't my problem. But Robida was saying that the gray areas their job as coaches is to make it black and white and eliminate as much of the gray areas as possible. There's always going to be some where you're sort of a little bit unsure, but those gray areas seemed huge earlier in the season, and now they're seeming smaller. And talking with Cole Caulfield about it after the Edmonton game when they shut out the Oilers, and he said it's just a case of doing it over and over and making mistakes and learning. And so people were sort of freaking out at the Canadians and, oh, this rebuild's a disaster and it's not working. It takes time. And just speaking with Cole, he said, we're learning this. Like, yeah, we're making mistakes, and it's a system that Marty is convinced is going to work. There's not a lot of different defensive systems in the NHL. There's other teams that do it. And as Stefan Robida said, all teams have sort of gray areas. The better teams have less, and the worst teams have more. And the less gray areas you have, the better you're playing your defensive zone. Obviously, the less time you spend in the defensive zone, the better chance you are winning. So we're seeing gradual improvement as a team. We've seen, Cole Caulfield become a scorer again. We've seen players improve. We saw Slafkovsky improve last season, taking a little bit of a dip this season. But even Kent Hughes said before the season he expected that. Progress isn't always linear. There's ups and downs. But as a team, they're progressing. They seem to be understanding the systems better. They're playing better. Good goaltending from Sam Montembeault obviously helps. He's played really well the last 4 times he's been in the net. But it's positive now, and we'll see what happens tomorrow night. They're playing Vegas. Canadians are well rested. They haven't played since Monday. This will be the 3rd game in 4 nights for Vegas. So this is one of those games that Canadians need to jump on a team, right? You get off to a good start, and especially at home. There's other games this season or other times this season they've looked good, and then they've sort of come out of sleep against a team they should jump on, and they haven't. So that'll be what I'm looking for tomorrow as the first period, is how they're able to jump on Vegas and take advantage of a team that should be tired.
Well, and you could say that the Canadians, they did it has clicked because they just beat the big bad Oilers. Like, what you want to talk about? You're in trouble if you're a mess in your defensive zone. That's probably the worst team in the NHL to be a mess against.
Well, I think most people thought the Habs were going to get blown out that game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Texting me, it's going to be 6-1, 8-1. They're going to pull Montembeault in the first period. I don't think many Canadians fans expected a shutout against the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, that's right. So you could say that, it has clicked. But Vegas is another team that, they got shut out against Toronto a couple nights ago. Then they come back, and I think they beat Ottawa last night. Last time I checked, they were leading the game. But anyways, that's on a back-to-back. And for them to come back and respond that way after being shut out against Toronto is a big thing. And Vegas is obviously, recent Cup champs. There's prestige there. There's it's not the right word I'm looking for, but there's pedigree. That's what I'm talking about. There's pedigree there. So that's another litmus test game for the Canadians, especially because, like you just mentioned, they had all those nights off. It's very rare in an NHL season when you're not on a bye week and you don't play Monday to Saturday. So, it would be a little disappointing to see them come out flat or for them to regress a little bit. But, back to the point of, progression not always being linear. It's kind of like anything. I'm going to equate it to running because, that's my thing. And, they always say not every run is created equal. I've had 20-kilometer runs where I feel amazing and, I feel like I could go more. And then I've had 3-kilometer runs in training where every step it felt like there were cinder blocks attached to my feet. It just because you take a step forward, it doesn't mean that you're consistently going to be going forward. The important thing is that when you zoom out, it's that linear line. When you zoom in, sure, there could be some inconsistencies. You go up, down. But when you zoom out to the bigger picture, you want to see that line going this way instead of the other way. And I think why Canadians fans were so pissed off at the beginning of the season. And, my last episode, I was pissed off. And before break, I was pissed off at the Canadians for making me watch that product. And I think the reason for that is because while you want the bigger picture, you need something to hold on to, and every season is different in the NHL. And, for them to start out of the gate how they started, I think pissed a lot of people off because that's when you're supposed to be most energized. And for the past few years, the Canadians kind of defied the odds. I think back to 2 years ago when all the way up until Christmas, they were a 500 team and then the wheels came off. Even last year, they were up until Christmas and then the wheels came off, where it felt like the wheels were never really on the wagon to start with for this season.
Yeah, and they were getting blown out, and they were giving up a ton of shots. I mean, they're giving up the most shots in the NHL. 6 games in a row now, 30 shots or less. 6 in a row. So that's Marty always likes to talk, is it a one-off or is it a habit? Well, it's becoming a habit now that they're limiting teams to 30 shots or less. There was first game of the season, I think it was 47 shots Toronto had, right? And Montemo stood on his head and they won. The compete level hadn't been, and I've mentioned this on previous podcasts, hadn't been as consistent as it had been since Marty took over. That bag skate he put the players through in Washington, maybe that sent a message, maybe that, pick up your compete level, or we're going to have more of these bag skates, which obviously are never fun. But it's the thing about this team and the rebuilding plan is now you've got a lot of guys 23, 24 years old who have been together now for 2 or 3 years, and they're figuring stuff out together. And that's the plan of this, the big plan of this rebuild is that having all these guys at a young age come up together, learn on the ice, learn off the ice, figure out Marty's systems and concepts and what he wants to play, and improve as a group. And now, it's 3 games. I mean, if they win tomorrow, it'll be the first time they had one 3-game winning streak last year. It was at the end of March. So long winning streaks for this team are not common. So tomorrow night's, I think, a really big game. Just that gets another good team to show that, we can compete and we can play defensively. And as much as, I was talking with Cole Caulfield also, he said, when Marty first came in as a coach, the team was in the toilet, right? It was as low as it could be. And Dominic Ducharme will be back at the Bell Center tomorrow night, right? As assistant coach with the Golden Knights, going back to those days. And he said when Marty came in, his first job was just to make it fun for the guys. Like hockey wasn't fun. And he said, just let us basically go play offense, And we saw what happened with Cole, right? He had 1 goal in 30 games, I think it was, with Dom Ducharme as coach that year, and he finished the season with 23. So it was just fun. And then year 1 of the full rebuild, it was still fun. And year 2, so now, okay, we've let you guys have some fun playing offense and finding your skills and trying different things. Now we're cracking down, and he's been more. Jake Evans was saying this. Marty's been a lot harder on guys this year. He says that we're adults now. And Juraj Slafkovsky, talking with him, he was saying, guys are saying, do you have to remind yourself sometimes you're only 20 years old? I said, yeah, I'm 20, but it's my 3rd year. And that's more important than the fact I'm 20. That was a great line from a young player. And so they're building together, and we're seeing what looked earlier last time before he went away on vacation. It looked like this was going to be a disaster this season, right? The wheels are falling off, and now there's signs of some promise. There's 7-10-2, but they're only 5 points out of a wild card playoff spot behind Boston, and Boston has 2 games in hand. I mean, Boston's that division that we thought was going to be so strong.
Oh yeah.
Boston's struggling, fires their coach. Ottawa's, they lose to Vegas last night. Ottawa's just every year the wheels fall off, it seems, with this team. They change coaches, they change owners, same old center. So one of the reasons I didn't think the Canadians would make the playoffs before the season started is that they're just too young and not enough talent, even with Patrick Laine. But the other reason was just how good the division was, or thought it would be. But now there's a lot of teams in the division struggling also. So, that talk about being in the mix, 5 points out of a wild card spot, a quarter of the way through the season with a couple of games in hand, put together a winning streak, but we win 2 or 3 more games in a row, and we'll be saying, they are in the mix. And Patrick Laine's been skating with them this week. The last 2 days, he took part in a full practice with a non-contact jersey. So he's maybe speculating here, another week, maybe 2 weeks away from coming back to play. That'll give them a boost. But I just think this game against Vegas is really big, because after having that long break, they should be really rested, and they should be ready to come out going crazy. And I was speaking with Brendan Gallagher after practice today, and he took a couple of therapy days recently. And I said to him, is that something you would have done in your younger days? Like, are you getting smarter in your old age now when it comes to dealing with little minor injuries? And he sort of laughed about it, and he said, it's sort of talking with the training staff. We have a week of practice. You can afford to miss one. So he didn't practice. It was 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Sorry, he practiced the last 2 days. So he took a day off, a therapy day, just to work on his body. And for Gallagher, he's on pace to score 35 goals, which would be a career high. So again, this is a really important game for them. Can win the first 3-game winning streak to match their total of 3-game winning streaks from last season, and to show that they've taken advantage of this long break to rest up and come up and jump on Vegas right from the start.
And that'll be the reason why it's such a big game is, you mentioned it'd be the first 3-game winning streak of the season, but there's something in learning on how to keep winning while you're on a winning streak, because it's easy for you, at the end of the season when, worse teams generally start to win more games because, you know, the playoff teams, if they've clinched already, take their foot off the gas, or they're feeling the pressure, whatever the case may be. And the team that's out of the dance, they don't feel any pressure. They do whatever they want. We see that a lot. There's something to be said about playing games and building on winning streaks because, you know, I don't know who they're playing next week. Let's just say, you know, Vancouver's coming to town. That was the first city that came to my head. And they beat Vegas. They beat two other teams. All of a sudden, you're on a 5-game winning streak. That other team, it doesn't matter who they are. It could be the Florida Panthers. It could be the Dallas Stars. It could be the Winnipeg Jets. They're going to start to not take you lightly. They're going to say, hey, boys, I know it's Montreal and they're a little weaker. And sure, this might be a little bit lucky, but the fact is they're on a 5-game winning streak. We got to bring our A game. And then Montreal is saying, let's keep the good times rolling. And this is the best team in the league. We need to buckle down and really be smart about the way we play. There's something to be said about that, about learning how to keep on winning and not just, you know, win a couple games, lose 3, win a couple games, lose 4. You know, you want consistency, you want consistent performances, and winning on winning streaks is it's probably one of the harder things to do if you're a young team.
Well, consistency in the NHL is the key for teams and for individual players. And speaking with Stefan Robida yesterday, and he was talking about that with Arbor Jacki, and you know, I asked Robida, what was your toughest thing when you first came into the league? And he said it's just getting that consistency, because that consistency gains you trust with the coach, which leads to ice time, which leads to the coach allowing you to make a mistake and not benching you or sending you to the minors. And it's the same with the team. Now we've seen consistency with their defensive play. Can they keep it up against Vegas? After Vegas, we got Utah here next Tuesday night, and then they go on the road. They're playing Columbus, and they play the Rangers next Saturday. So it's about consistencies in any sport. I mean, as Robida was saying, you know, there's gray areas in every defensive system, but the good teams have smaller gray areas that don't show up as much, and the worst teams have bigger areas that do show up more often. So, as I said, the consistency in the defensive play the last 6 games. I mean, they've only won 2 in a row, but 6 games in a row. You talk about that Dallas game, the Minnesota game, how boring it was. It wasn't boring, but the Canadians almost had to make that game boring, right? Because they couldn't get into a shootout in Minnesota. They're one of the best teams in the league. And Minnesota plays that style too, where they wait back and wait back and wait back. And after the game against Edmonton, Marty had a good quote when he said, we didn't try too many maybe plays. He says that we didn't go, oh, maybe this will work, and then it doesn't work and it ends up in the back of your own net. He said we were making 100% smart plays, like putting the puck in deep if we didn't have a play, not trying things that are maybe it'll work. And that's a sign of a team growing and gaining more maturity. And, you know, when you watch the best teams and the most experienced teams in the NHL, they don't throw the puck away very often, right? They don't make a lot of blatant mistakes. And teams that are rebuilding, like the Canadians, Ottawa Senators, Buffalo Sabres, you can go down the list, they make a lot of sort of unforced errors and give the puck away. So Marty, it seems to have gotten their attention. Where you say, 3 weeks ago, when it looked like the wheels were falling off, and he seems to have gotten their attention and got the focus back to the defensive system. I know they've done a lot of video work with it. They've changed, tweaked a couple of things here and there to make it, as Robita said, our job as coaches is to try and eliminate those gray areas, and that's what they're trying to do. And they've been successful for a while.
The biggest, I like what you said, because how they played against Minnesota. They played a smart game, because the last episode we had done together before break, the most recent Canadians game was that 7-2 loss against the Rangers. And I remember telling you, I blew a gasket. I said, hey, our number one defenseman is out, or our number one line forward, whatever the case was. I forget who was out of that game, is out of the game. Let's play a little tighter defensively tonight. Like maybe let's dial back the risks and stuff like that. They didn't do it that game. And then that's a sign that they learned from their mistakes, that Minnesota game, because sure, the result was the same. They lost. And, the Canadians didn't show much on if anything, on the offensive side of the puck that game. But that game showed maturity, because they knew they couldn't go toe-to-toe with with the Minnesota Wild, like you said. It's like if you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs and you have Tommy DeVito as your quarterback. Maybe New York Giants, let's play a little sound defensively, bend but don't break, because we can't really have Tommy DeVito going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes,
Well, they gave up 3 goals against Minnesota. One was at the end of a 4-minute power play. One was an empty netter. So they played well. It was boring to watch, but they played well. And they're at a point where the Canadians are certain games like that when they play against top teams where they got to eliminate the maybe plays, right? And it makes for less entertaining hockey. But defense wins, right? If you don't play good defense, and the goaltend. The other question I have now is, when do they put Caden Primo back in goal? You know what I mean? Montembeault's been playing so well, and I think Marty St. Louis might be asking himself that same question. We got to play him again at some point, but like when? And you got to figure, well, they play Utah is here on Tuesday, and then they're in Columbus on Wednesday. So you figure he's getting in one of those games, and if Caden Primo gets lit up again, how much longer do they wait before they say maybe we need to take one of the guys from Laval and bring him up and risk losing Primo on waivers? Because if they really want to be in the mix and they want to keep the team morale high, you can't put a goalie in there where they don't think they have a chance to win. And Caden Primo this season has looked like they don't have a chance to win when they play him. So that'll be an interesting game coming up, the back-to-back, to see which one of those games that Marty St. Louis decides to play Primo.
It's funny, upon reflection, I was saying Columbus is the game. And just quick reflection, Columbus just hung 7 on the Tampa Bay Lightning's backup goalie last night. So it's not exactly, Columbus is still not the cream of the crop in the NHL, but you don't just walk over them anymore.
I still think they play Montembeault at home and probably play Primo on the road. But again, that's going to be a huge game for Caden Primo, and the pressure will be on him. And we'll see how he handles it, because that's been one of the things he's struggled with at the NHL level, is just handling the pressure being a goalie in Montreal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. It's really tough out there because it's just I can't imagine how deflating it is. What was the game earlier in the season? The Canadians were coming back and just Primo just let in such a banana. It's escaping me. Maybe it was against Boston? Yes, it must have been against Boston. They came back, they were down big, and then they clawed their way back from 4 or 5-1 down or 5-2 down, and then Primo just let in a one that trickled off of him, and
Well, that game against Buffalo, I mean, I think they had one high danger scoring chance to get him against them, and he let in 5 goals on 14 shots. That's when you're on the bench and you're going, okay, this isn't good. I mean, 1-2-1 record this season, 4.67 goals against average, and an .845 save percentage. But to me, even more alarming than that is if you look at his career, 51 games played with the Canadians, 12, 23, and 7, a 3.63 goals against average, and an .887 save percentage. As I mentioned earlier, at what point have you seen enough that, okay, this is just isn't going to work out? And this is the last year of his contract, right? One of the reasons they kept, the reason they kept 3 goalies last year is because they were afraid they'd lose him on waivers. And this was a season for them to play him and see if indeed he is a legitimate NHL goalie. And off to a rough start. Again, my question is how many more, if he struggles again, hopefully for Caden Primo, he plays great if he does play in Columbus, but if he struggles again, how many more starts do you give him when the guys in the locker room are going, oh man, we're not going to win tonight. Our chances of winning tonight aren't very good.
Yeah, it's tough because, that's also on him. What does that do to him? But at the end of the day, it's a results-based business. And if you're not delivering results, you can be the nicest guy in the world. But, unfortunately, business is business. Let's talk about one player. Go ahead.
Kent Hughes has belief in him. That's why he's still here.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's why they, they drove Marty crazy. They drove him up the wall last year with the 3 goalie system.
Yeah, which didn't help any of the 3 goalies.
Exactly. But anyways, let's talk about a player that we haven't talked about in relation to a player that hasn't been here for a while. Well, at least in uniform. You wrote a column yesterday about Nick Suzuki and learning from the Shea Weber Ring of Honor ceremony and seeing the reaction of that.
Yeah, well, Shea had a big impact on Nick. Nick only played 2 seasons with Shea, his rookie year and his second year. And when he was named captain, Shea Weber wasn't surprised. Nick, they have similarities, right? So they're guys who lead by example. And Nick was saying he had a chance to. There's a whole group of the players, former Weber teammates, who made the trip to Toronto to see his induction ceremony. But Nick said he didn't get a lot of time to spend one-on-one with him then. But the night before, last Friday night before the ceremony at the Bell Center for Weber, we went out for dinner, Suzuki and Josh Anderson and Weber. And he said it was just really nice to talk with him. And Weber basically told him, he says, like, anytime you need to talk to me, you just call me. Even if it's just a vent, if you want to yell or something's pissing you off, you want to yell about it for 30 minutes. So I'm always there. Just call me. And he said it wasn't ever really anything that Weber said to him during their 2 seasons together that he learned from. It was just watching him every day, watching the leader he was, watching what he did on the ice, watching what he did off the ice, and seeing the injuries he played for and what he put himself through. So there's similar characters in that way. Nick's better dealing with the media. He doesn't hate doing it as much as Shea did. But yeah, it's when they named Suzuki the captain, and before they named Weber captain, I thought Gallagher would have been a better captain in Montreal with everything that comes with it. But then when they named Suzuki instead of Gallagher, I got it because, as we were mentioning earlier, they want this young group of guys to come up together and grow together and learn together, and he's in that age group. And the other thing Weber talked about was that when he was 24 when he was named captain of the Predators, and he said it's sort of weird going up to a guy who might be 10 years older than you with 3 kids and sort of giving him crap, right? Or telling him what he should be doing. They're looking at you like, who are you, kid? But Weber said that Barry Trotz was really good teaching him that the guys in the room respect you. Like, we wouldn't have given you the captaincy if they didn't respect you. And if you chew a guy out, or if you call a guy out and say he's not playing hard enough or something like that, it's not personal. It's to make the team better. And that's something that he's tried to pass along to Nick also. Like, Nick's not a big vocal guy, but when there are times you have to speak with a guy, it's not personal. It's for the benefit of the team. And you got to remember the guys in the room respect you and management respects you. And that's why they made you captain. So remember that. Even though you're 24, 25 years old, you can still speak to the older guys about it. And Suzuki was telling me when I asked him about Shea's comments, and he said, well, I'm lucky in that a lot of guys in this team are younger than me. But he said, I've become much more comfortable now speaking with the older guys also, and realizing that they respect me and what he says means something. And, as they say, men a few words and they do speak, people listen. And I think that's the case with Nick Suzuki.
Well, that was always the case. It's the biggest similarity, yet difference at the same time as Nick Suzuki between Shea Weber, in terms of leadership style, is that both quiet guys. But even as quiet as he was, Shea Weber, like you always said, and Carey Price too, but it was mostly Shea Weber, they suck a lot of air out of that room. Yeah. And it's not the case with Nick Suzuki.
Yeah.
It's always, exactly. And yeah, to his point, he is young and it's who am I, whatever, but he's got to realize, you're young and the players next to you are close to you in age, but like you said, they got the belief in you. But Nick, hey, you've been through a lot in your very young career in the NHL. I mean, not many people could say, at age 20 or 21, whatever it was, they were already in a Stanley Cup final. And you tasted that defeat. If you ever make it back there, you're going to know what it's like to be on the losing side, and you're going to do every damn thing in your power to not be on that side once again. So, been through a lot and is very, very, he's still very young, but he's very experienced at the same time.
25 years old. He's played 392 games in the NHL, and he's never missed a game, right? He's never missed a game since he joined the Canadiens. Played every single one, and he's gotten better. His stats have gotten better every season. They've gradually gotten better and better and better. He's just a good, solid hockey player. And he's a good person too, and the players really do respect him. They really, really do. You can tell when you ask them about him and they talk about him. Something like a guy like Slavkovsky, how much Nick has helped him since he came in. And again, I think it was a smart move by the Canadiens management team when they named him captain. The one thing he doesn't have that Weber had, I think, is the fear of God he can put in players. Because I was talking with Jake Evans.
Yes.
And I said to Jake Evans, I said, do you have a favorite Shea Weber story you can share? And he sort of chuckled. He said, I remember in the COVID years, we were playing a game in Edmonton, and we actually won the game. But near the end of the game, he says one of the guys didn't get the puck out of the zone, and we got, I think it was Phil Dano actually, and just a sort of lazy type of chip and didn't get it out, and the puck came in, and Weber ended up taking a shot off the hand after that, and it actually broke his hand, if I remember right. And they finally got out, and he said we went in the room, and Shea was livid, screaming and yelling. He says, and he's a scary guy when he gets mad. Just everybody sort of sat there and went, oh, okay. So I don't think Nick has that in him, but he has a lot of other similarities to what Shea Weber had.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it could be surprising. You could be surprised. You don't know what happens behind closed doors, but that'll come with time. Nick Suzuki is developing as a leader, and he took it on the chin a lot this season already, and some deservedly so. It's frankly that episode that we did 3 weeks ago when I was yelling and screaming, "Can somebody give a shit?" He was a part of that group that didn't. Or at least it looked like it. That's what it
every player goes through slumps, right? Ups and downs, and everybody's going to have bad games. Or Chris Nanthem and Jacques Lemaire, so you can have one bad game out of 10. And it happens to every guys. But Nick always self-corrects himself, right? He goes through a little something. It never lasts that long, right? It's maybe 3 games, 4 games, and he usually bounces back and goes on a point-a-game tear for a while. He's on a point-a-game pace this season. And he's such a – I like watching him because he's just such a smart player, and he rarely makes a mistake with the puck, and his line-mates like playing with him. He's just a really good hockey player and a good person. And, he said it's going to be kind of weird now because, Shea's picture's up on the wall with the other Hall of Famers looking down on him. He said, well, it's kind of cool. And he said, it'd be even more cool when Price will probably go in next year. So it's kind of cool to have a guy, you look in the locker, we see all these Hall of Fame guys from the past. He says it's going to be kind of cool to have a couple of guys up there that actually were my teammates that are now have their pictures up on the wall.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool. And you know what? I think we're not going to open this debate, but that's the right move, for Carey Price is Ring of Honor, leave the rafters alone on that one. We don't have to get into that, but I think that's the right move for the Canadians. But shifting back to the team, tomorrow night against Vegas. Vegas is there's something missing from Vegas, it feels like this year. I don't know what it is, but again, like you said, this is a chance for the Canadians to really build on what's finally started to click. And I hope they do, because that while Vegas is first in the Pacific, that would send a huge message to teams like the Boston Bruins that they're chasing, teams like, they're behind the Buffalo Sabres that are, maybe kind of starting to sort of get it together. I don't know. It's Buffalo. I can't really place too much faith in them, but that'll be a strong message to send to the rest of the teams in their division if they could take down Vegas, even if, they're on a road trip or whatever, because that's just a feather in your cap. That's confidence building on your side, which, in this league, you can never use too much of it. And I feel like the Canadians, even though they've been playing well so far for the past few games, they could always use more.
Yeah, well, Vegas is, you say, first place in the Pacific. They're 12-6-2, but they're only 4-4-2 on the road. They're 8-2 at home. Yeah. So they're on their Habs are at home, and this is a game that's important to drop. And I just think it'll be to come off that shutout win over the Oilers, limiting them to 4 high danger scoring chances, limiting McDavid to 1 shot, limiting Draisaitl to 2 shots, having this long stretch off, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, getting in some practices, feeling really good about yourselves, and then to come out and lay an egg against Vegas, I think would just really be demoralizing, not just for the team, but for the fan base, right? There's a little bit of optimism creeping in again with the fans, I think, especially seeing Laine skating and thinking he might be coming back, and maybe this team's getting it back together. So to come out flat against Vegas Saturday night, I think would be a real downer, and I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I think I'd be really surprised if the games don't come out and put in a really strong performance and even win against Vegas on Saturday night.
I would be, could they lose? Of course you could lose. You could lose any night. But that's the biggest key is, when you go that far without playing, it's exactly the same spot they were in against New York, but the script has flipped. They lost big against New York, and then they were going into Saturday against Columbus, and I remember saying they better not lose this game. They better not lose this game, or that at the very least, you better not look disengaged like you have looked the past few games. Now that the script is flipped, it's you better look engaged, because you have to. You had 5 days off. There's no excuse for it, and frankly, you're last in the division. You have no. If you want to be in the mix, you want to stick to your goal. You have no cushion to. Not that any team at this point of the season has cushion, but you have no cushion, or you have no pedigree to, well, let's take the foot off the gas and we'll get them next time. Also, it's got to be said, the Canadians are not a big sample size, but under Martin St. Louis this season, at least, at home on Saturday night, it feels like they're automatic, to win the game at this point, which is crazy to talk about the Canadians as an automatic win. But I don't know. There's something about Martin St. Louis getting his guys up for Saturday night that always brings the best out of them.
Yeah, I think it was last year when he said if it was his last day on earth, he'd want to be at the Bell Center behind the bench on a Saturday night. I mean, there you go. Something special about the Bell Center on Saturday night. Even for me covering a game, it's just a different feel when you walk to the Bell Center on Saturday and you see the fans outside and in the press box. It's a different vibe. It really, really is. And the Canadians seem to be able to feed off that. And that's really important for them. I think the younger players are one of the things this new management team has done is welcome back the older players, the Hall of Famers, to be around the team and be in the old timers lounge and speak with players and stuff like that. And I think it's sort of, they get what it means to be a Canadian, right? And Brendan Gallagher was asked about that after practice today. He's the longest tenured Canadians player right now, and was asking about, do you take it upon yourself to sort of let these players know what it means to be a Montreal Canadiens player, to the city, to the fans, all that. And he said sort of, but he says you have to live in an experience to really appreciate it, right? To just what it's like a kid like Lane Hudson, now walking around Montreal, he can't go anywhere without being noticed. That's new, right? And that can be cool, or that can be overwhelming, right? It depends on how you want to take it. Same with Yaroslav Koski. He enjoys it. He's really good with the fans and doesn't have a problem with it. And I think a lot of these young guys don't. It might be more difficult for an older player coming in, like when Shea Weber, when he came here from Nashville, it was like night and day, right? He went from, so he could probably walk down Broadway Street in Nashville, and 80% or 90% of people would have no clue who he was, right? Or even really care, to coming here where you can't go anywhere or do anything without being recognized. So just that part about what it means to be a Montreal Canadian. I think it's for young guys like that. I think it's more cool, if that's the right word, just to live in the city and be out and see the fans and see, sort of be a big deal in the city. And the young guys that they have here seem to have embraced it. Cole Caulfield, Suzuki. Suzuki spends the summers here now. It's been a long time since Canadians players have done that. And other guys are around more in the summer too. I went to the Lasso Music Festival. You see a bunch of players there that guys come in for the Grand Prix. They hang around. So I think that's important. Also, rebuilding is just understanding what it means to be part of this team and just how much fans love this hockey team. Fans love this hockey team. It's incredible. Speak with fans from around the country that you run into some of the practices and that. I did a column recently on a couple from San Diego that they come here every year and spend like a month here just going to games and whatnot. And this team is something special. And what it means to the fan base, and it's nice to see the younger players sort of appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's important. The whole thing about the bringing the legends back is because I think there's many reasons why it's important, but this is a super young team, and the veterans that are in the room, except for Brendan Gallagher and David Savard, really, they're not. When you're lost on the ice, it doesn't feel like they're guys to look to, because they're also guys that have been caught in the crossfire. Like when the offense is lost on the ice and nobody knows what to do, you could look to Brendan Gallagher because A, he's been here forever, and B, he's playing great. He's playing some of the best hockey of his career right now, which is amazing. So you could look to him. Whereas on the back end, the biggest problem was when you have guys like Lane Hudson who could get lost at any point on the ice. Logan Mailloux, he was getting lost, and just the entire defensive core. But the problem with that and having no one to look to was that you would look around and you would maybe kind of look at Mike Matheson, but Matheson was kind of not playing that well either. So it's important to be, remember where you came from, which is why they bring the legends in, because, we're getting to a point where players, I've never seen any of these legends play, because I'm too young. Now there's players on the team that are younger than me. So they don't know, and they didn't grow up here, so they don't know what it means.
The doctor may not know who Yvon Cornway is, but his dad would, right? Or that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm sure when they have the fathers trip or that, the fathers think is really cool seeing these guys around. But you're right, these guys are too young to remember. These guys are too young to remember the last time the Canes won a Stanley Cup in '93. Most of them weren't born.
I wasn't born.
But it's still key, though. I think I think it's also just it's a classy organization, and these guys. I was old enough to watch these guys play in that, and there's just they're a different breed of guy. Like they all had the CH tattooed on their heart. They still do. When you see that when they brought out that the '70s dynasty team, this team means so much to them, and I don't see anything negative from just having them around. Chris Nonsey, these guys aren't going in the room telling guys what to do. They have their own little lounge there where they hang out, and it's more just the team appreciating what they did for this franchise and welcoming them back. And I think that was kudos to Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes for doing that. And Kent Hughes is a guy around my age who grew up here. He remembers what these Canadians guys were and what they did for the team. And I think they appreciate feeling appreciated and feeling welcome back in the Bell Center with open arms.
Well, the last thing also that this organization wants is because, again, you said it yourself. I find more and more there's a lot of people who in this city, as people, the younger generation gets older and older, and younger people come more are getting older. There's multi-sport fans, whereas people from my parents' generation, even the generation a little younger than that, Canadians. That's it. Then you talk to people from my generation. Yeah, I grew up as a Canadians fan, but I would say I'm a bigger Bengals fan than a Canadians fan, which is wild to think about, but it's true. I'm also, Manchester United fan. I'm also, that's pretty much it. Never mind. But you know what I mean? Whereas it was always Canadians number one. And I find younger people are getting more into basketball, more into football, more into soccer. And the Canadians will never lose complete control over the city, but it could slip away. And they'll never become just another hockey team. At least, I don't see that happening in our lifetimes, but it's possible. And you don't want the interest to just be like, yeah, I guess I'll go to the Canadians game, whatever. You want people to be excited to go into that building because that'll keep, the excitement around the team and keep the team where they want to be. And it helps. It's a lot of pressure for players, but you don't want what always made me mad, Stu? Whenever players would say, opposing players would say, oh, I love playing at the Bell Center at Saturday night. I love it. No, I want you to hate it. Yeah. I want you to despise coming into this building. I want you to think it's rabid and insane. It's like you'll never hear a player in the NFL say, I love going to Baltimore on a Sunday night. There's nothing better than playing in Baltimore on a Sunday night. No, they're scared shitless of playing in Baltimore on a Saturday night, on a Sunday night, because they know they're going to get killed. And it's a rabid crowd, and there's excitement and there's buzz. You want that to come back for the Canadians, because that's called what the kids call today aura. You want that aura to be around the team that these are a bunch of legends we're about to play. This is a legendary franchise.
Well, the thing that showed me recently just how the passion is still there for the Canadians with fans and young fans was that COVID playoff run when they beat Vegas. Yes. And it was Arturi Lekkinen scored the winning goal, and it was also Saint Jean Baptiste. And I remember leaving the Bell Center, and it was wild. Like the city was just booming, right? And that was
you would think COVID wasn't a thing at that.
You would think it was. I remember walking out, and it was just crazy. And the players couldn't leave the rink. They were stuck at the Bell Center until
the fans inside the building were stuck there.
It's the same thing when the Canadiens won the Cup in '93. Guy Carbonneau, them, they couldn't leave the Forum. There was riots that time going on outside. It was crazy. They couldn't leave the Forum. It was the same thing. So to me, that's the most recent example to show that passion really is still there for this team with a younger generation. Like as you said, you weren't born. I mean, you have no clue what a Stanley Cup in this city would be like, right? And when I saw that night, that was like a Stanley Cup celebration. Like back when I was your age, or when I was a younger guy growing up with the Canadiens, like, okay, they beat Vegas in the semifinal, they're going to the Cup final. Okay, good. Now you better win. Yeah. But that was similar to, and there was other things about it. I mean, it was COVID. You're right. COVID was sort of coming to an end, and there was people who were looking for something to be happy and celebrate about. But, if or when this team does get back to that, it sort of sucks that the year they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, the year no fans are allowed in the building. But if they do get back to that, I think we'll see again just how much this team means to this city and to the fan base and young fans also.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's been a long time since the Canadiens were must-see TV. When I was a kid, and playoffs be damned, because with Michel Therrien, they never really did anything except for that year they beat the Rangers, or they played the Rangers in the Cup in the semifinals. But watching them go 50 wins in a season, you were excited to sit on the couch and watch the game. Whereas the past few years, yeah, sure, they're playing exciting hockey, but at the end of the day, you want to win. You want to play. You play to win, and fans watch because they want to see their team win. They don't want to see their team, you lost 5-1, but you played well in the defensive zone because only 2 goals were in an empty net. 1 goal was a power play, and whatever. You don't want to see that as a fan. You want to see wins. So, it's a good start to the upward trend on the season, and all that to say. And I just really, really hope they could keep that going, because it'll be really exciting if they follow through. Imagine they follow through with their goal. Like you said, back I think 30 minutes ago, you said, they're looking good in their own defensive zone. They're starting to play well. They're playing as a unit now in their own defensive zone. And now they have reinforcements on the way with Patrick Laine coming in, about a week or 2 away. So I don't know if they could do that, if they could be in the mix. The city will get crazy again. The city will get crazy over the fact that, if it comes down to game 82 and they're in the mix, that could really light a fire under these players' behinds.
Well, I think why fans are so disappointed early is that, the hype about Laine coming, the excitement, and then in the mix. Then Laine gets hurt, and then they don't play well, and they play boring. Like, they were boring to watch. It wasn't fun to watch. Since Marty took over, they were fun to watch, right? Yeah. Now, but as he brings in more of a defensive system, they're not going to be, or focuses more on defense. They might not be as fun to watch. But as you say, fans want to see wins, right? So if that Minnesota game was boring and the Habs come and won, nobody would say it was boring, right? People would be saying they won. So it's, again, the compete level seems to be back where it had been. Which was my biggest concern when they were slumping. And we'll see what happens tomorrow night against Vegas. I said I'd be really, really, I'd be really shocked if the Canes don't play well, and I'd actually be surprised if they don't win. I think they're going to win this game against Vegas. I think that this is I think they realize what a big game it is. Sam Montembeault's been on a roll, giving the team some confidence. Saturday at home, as you said, I think this is a game that the Canadiens, and if they win, then people go, wow, 3 in a row, and then we'll might be closer to that wild card spot moving forward. I think then the excitement level will come up, and then again, if Laine comes back next week or the week after, there'll be another level. So, what looked like a season, as you said before you went on vacation, with the wheels were falling off and it was over, is they've got the wheels back on right now.
Yeah, it's very rare that you get an in-season pit stop like that. But, but it's true, though, because, it just goes back to fans wanting to see wins. I remember when Michel Therrien was the coach and they would win, 50 games in the regular season, playoffs, whatever. But, they win 50 games. No one complained during the playoffs. You just won first place in the division. Mm-hmm. And then the next season, the season where he got fired, well, now they're boring and they suck. And
bad and boring is a bad combination. That's what got Dominic Ducharme fired. They were bad.
It'll get every coach fired.
Bad, boring hockey is not. It's. There was nights. I remember back at the end of the Dominic Ducharme era, saying to my buddies and friends in the press box, "Man, thank God we're getting paid to watch this." It was pretty bad.
I actually have a question about that. Was there ever a time where bad loss and when before the cameras, the recorders, whatever are rolling, you say to the player like, "I got to do my job. You got to do yours. Let's just get this over with." Was that ever?
You don't really say it, but they know it. I mean, I remember you sort of run out of questions like, how many different ways can you phrase, "Why do you guys suck?" You know what I mean? There's only so many different ways you can phrase it, and the players. Some guys are better than others at dealing with the media. Gallagher's always been fantastic with the media. He'll give you a good answer to any type of question, but I mean, they're not thrilled to speak with the media after a loss, right? It's part of their job; they have to. But again, some guys are better at it than others. And as I said right off the top of the show, I mean, I don't cheer for or against any teams, but the Canadiens are a lot more fun to cover when they're winning. It's better hockey. They're in a better mood. They're more willing to spend time and talk to you. I often wonder whether there's more interest when they're winning or when they suck, because when they suck, message boards light up, radio stations, comments light up on websites, the Gazette and whatnot. But it's just the passion that fans have in this city, and I think part of it is angry people usually respond louder than happy people. So that's part of why I think when they're losing, you hear so much from the fans.
Well, just as I'll remember when Tony and I were working together on the radio, the peak would never be a higher of like before they went on that Stanley Cup run, because that would just brought listenership to another level. Mm-hmm. But it was always high when they were winning. They go on a losing streak, a 5-game losing streak, and if you looked at Tony's ratings, the first game after a 5-game losing streak. Oh man. Man. But then if they keep losing, it goes up and then it tanks because it gets old.
When the Habs would get smoked, and my wife's a hockey fan, she's a sports fan, she likes hockey, she's not a fanatic about it, but after a night when the Habs would get beat bad, in the morning she's like, "Let's put on Tony." He had one of those classic meltdowns on his French radio show earlier this season too, where he was having a heart attack. So it's as I said, it's just the passion that fans have for this team, and Tony brings that, right? He brings that with his show. He brings that through his personality. He lives and dies with the wins and losses. But my wife never said after the Canadiens won, let's listen to Tony in the morning. If they lost, she would say, "Let's listen to Tony in the morning."
She actually, that means she missed some pretty good bits. I remember after the Canadiens came back from 3-1 against the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, he slipped me a paper. He goes, when he's coming on, he goes, "Call this number." I go, "Who am I calling?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it." And I call the number, and it was a golf course in.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm laughing while talking to the gentleman on the phone, and I'm sorry, sir. And then I go, "Tony, what do I do? What do you want me to tell the guy?" He goes, "Just stall him." And then we put him on, and they were good sports about it in the end. And I remember after they beat Vegas, it must have been after they beat Vegas. He didn't do it, but he ran it by our boss. He wanted to call a Vegas strip club and get a reservation for the Vegas Golden Knights so they could cheer themselves up over there. So
he called a priest or something in Montreal too at one point.
He called a priest.
Tony's creative with that. That's the reason why he's as popular as he is.
Yeah, it was always my favorite whenever I came into work one morning, and I would always show up around, let's say 8:15 for 10 o'clock showtime, and Tony would come in maybe 20 or 30 minutes after me, and I knew it would be a great show when he came in, and he just had a big smile on his face, and he would give me it was something in his eyes. He would give me a look, and I would just say, "This is going to be a crazy show. This is going to be a crazy day. The hours are going to fly by today." But yeah, so that just got. They call him the voice of the fans for a reason, right?
That's it. We'll see what he's like on Monday after whether the Habs win or lose. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone's
Yeah,
back on the
that's
podcast.
right. Monday. Well, you'll have Monday afternoon if you want to listen to him on the radio, but you certainly will have him Monday night. On the Sick Podcast right here. So, Stu, thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, take care.
So just like I used to say when the hours would fly by with Tony, the hour just flew by. Who knows where it went? Time flies when you're having fun. Just quickly before I go, big shout out to our another sponsor of ours. You know, all insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product, right on the money, whatever your insurance needs may be, home, auto, or business. Call 514-363-3636 or visit their website at accentassurance.com. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.